Geometry 1, Chapter 2 Test Skill 5. Be able to identify the difference between the law of detachment and the law of syllogism. Be able to write the logical conclusion of the statement using either the law of detachment or the law of syllogism. Or be able to identify the statement as neither the law of detachment nor the law of syllogism. So the first thing is you need to have both of these laws memorized. So the law of detachment says, if P then Q is true, and P is true, then Q must be true. So if you have a conditional statement, P then Q, and you know that to be true, and the P, the hypothesis, is true, then the conclusion will also occur. It must also be true. The law of syllogism is one of my favorites. It says that if P then Q is true, and let's use Q then R is true, then if P then R is also true. So P causes Q and Q causes R, which means P actually causes R, kind of like a chain reaction. Now here I used P and Q. You could also use A and B. The law of detachment would be A, then B is true, A is true, so then B must be true. For the law of syllogism, if A causes B and B causes C, then A causes C. It's just a choice of letters. The capital letters are fine, P and Q are also fine. So here, determine what you conclude from the given information and state whether you use the law of detachment, or the law of syllogism. If no logical conclusion can be made, state no logical conclusion. So here, if you do your homework, then your grades will improve. If your grades improve, you will be happy. So what I see here are two if-then statements. If you do your homework, then your grades will improve. If your grades improve, well, there's no then here, but there's an implied then. Then you will be happy. Well, which law, the law of detachment or the law of syllogism, had two ifs and thens? Well, the if-then is represented by the arrow. That's the law of syllogism. If P then Q, if Q then R. So the only chance that we have here is that A represents the law of syllogism. Law of detachment just doesn't make sense. But what we have to do is make sure that the letters actually line up to make a chain reaction. So if you do your homework, well here, A would be you do your homework. So if A, you do your homework, then B, your grades will improve. So if A, then B, your grades will improve. The second sentence, though, says if your grades will improve. Here's B again. Then C would be you will be happy. So if A, then B. If B, then C. Well, this is the law of syllogism. We have a connector in the middle, which is B. B is the conclusion for the first statement, but the hypothesis for the second. So what we can conclude is that A will cause C. So we say law of syllogism. That's the law. And the conclusion is if you do your homework, then C, you will be happy. Now we look at B. If you eat too much food, then you will feel ill. You feel ill. Now when I look at this, I see one if-then statement. If you eat too much food, then you will feel ill. The second sentence, you feel ill, is not a conditional statement. It's not an if-then sentence. So, given that the second sentence is not if-then, leads me to think that this might be law of detachment. We just have to check. So in this case, if A would be you eat too much food. Then B, you will feel ill. Okay, great. So this starts if A, then B. Right here, though, you will feel ill. Is that A or is that B? Well, B is you will feel ill. That's B. So what we actually have here is if A, then B. As our first sentence, and our second sentence is B. Now this definitely looks like the law of detachment because there's no second if-then. But if you go back and you look at the law of detachment, if A then B, A, then B is the conclusion. So you have to actually have A then B, A, the hypothesis given to you. Here we have if A then B, B. The conclusion is what we know happened, not the hypothesis. So this is actually no logical conclusion. And here's the thought behind it. Yes, if you eat too much food, then you will feel sick. You will feel ill. However, just because you feel ill does not necessarily mean you ate too much food. There are lots of things out there that could cause you to feel ill. You might have the flu, you might have a cold, you might, I don't know, be ready to take a math test and it might make you feel ill. We don't really know what caused this person to feel ill, so we cannot conclude that they ate too much food. In order to use the law of detachment, this letter right here would have to be an A. So here's C. If it snows 2 feet, then school will be canceled. It snowed 2 feet. So here again, there's an if-then. If it snows 2 feet. So if A, then B. A is it snows 2 feet, and B, school will be canceled. That's the first sentence. If A, then B. Now the second sentence, it snowed 2 feet. Well, is that A or B? Snowing 2 feet, that's A. And what we have here is the form, if A, then B, A. Well, notice here, there's only one if-then statement, so it's definitely not the law of syllogism. So we need to look at law of detachment. If A then B is fine, A is what we know happened. Well, the law of detachment says the sentence without the if-then needs to be the hypothesis. That's the first part. That's the part that comes after the if. So if A and A down here, they match. So we can conclude B. So what that means is that we can use the law of detachment and we can conclude school will be canceled. Now again, just to point out, why we couldn't use law of detachment for part B is because in B, if A then B, they gave us the conclusion. In part C, if A then B, A, they gave us the hypothesis. And that's what the law of detachment allows you to conclude, is that if you're given the hypothesis, you can conclude the conclusion. Now the last one. If you like pizza, then you will enjoy dinner. If you are hungry, then you will enjoy dinner. What can we conclude? So looking at this, I see if, then, and if, then. This makes me think maybe it's the law of syllogism, which has two if-then statements. Let's figure out which ones are what letters. So, if A is you like pizza. Then, B, you will enjoy dinner. So the first sentence says, if A, then B. The second sentence, if you are hungry, then you will enjoy dinner. Well, you will enjoy dinner, that's B again. If you are hungry, that's not B, because B is you will enjoy dinner. So we need a new letter for that one. Let's call that C. C, you are hungry. So the second sentence says, if C, then B. Now I understand the tendency here. There are two if-thens, so the law of syllogism is the logical answer. Law of detachment would only have one if-then. But in order to be the law of syllogism, there has to be a connector. So here, A causes B, but C also causes B. But that doesn't guarantee a relationship between A and C. And the reason why is that in the law of syllogism, if we go back up to the top and look at the actual law, if A causes B and B causes C, this letter in the middle has to match. It has to be the same. The conclusion of one must be the hypothesis of the other. And down here, the conclusion of one is not the hypothesis of the other. It's the conclusion of the other. It's in the wrong place. If this said if A then B, if B then C, then we can conclude that A causes C. But here, because the B's both show up in the conclusion, there is no logical conclusion. Now, one last note here is that if there is no logical conclusion, please don't say that it's the law of syllogism. It's not the law of syllogism. If it was the law of syllogism, we could actually make a conclusion. So if you're going to say there's no logical conclusion, stop there. Don't make a conclusion. Don't say what law it is, because there is no logical conclusion because it does not follow either of the laws.